So Defend Our Democracy has determined that the 2024 elections can be said to be broadly free and fair. The results of the 2024 general elections, in which no political party emerged as an outright winner, were announced this past weekend. The declaration of the results by the IEC follows the objections by some political parties who alleged that there were irregularities with the IEC's results capturing process. Reverend Ntlha, who is the chairperson of Defend Our Democracy, is now joining us for this discussion. Reverend, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. I want to start off here. So the press briefing that you held came before the press briefing of the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula. And essentially, the sense that came out of that press briefing was that here you have a governing party that has been governing this country since the dawn of democracy, 30 years on, actually accepting defeat, that they have lost power. And some people were saying that things like this sometimes don't happen on the continent. What do you make of how the ANC has handled this particular defeat?
Certainly, thank you, Aldrin. Certainly, I think that is admirable on the part of the ruling party to accept such humiliation from the electorate, which is, as you say, on the continent and perhaps elsewhere. We remember in the USA that Donald Trump at one stage didn't want to accept the defeat. So it happens, I think, globally, where the tendency to cling to power, irrespective of the will of the people, seems to be something that incumbents would normally are inclined to do. So it's quite admirable and a good example for all parties to accept the outcome of the polls.
Yeah. What message then does that signal to the party hopefuls, the members of the party, who may not be happy with how the IEC has run the elections? In your observation, you do make an indication that there have been some issues, but not major issues that have been identified. So you have party members that are looking at how the elections have been run, perhaps maybe not happy, but the message coming from the governing party or the former governing party in this particular case, how does that augur to the electorate?
I think it would be a sad day if indeed the parties that are querying the outcome of the elections, particularly after and one hopes that they will pursue the legitimate channels. I mean, the IEC is not the apex court of the nation, and so I believe people are free to take their queries to any other court, or the Electoral Court, or even the Constitutional Court. I think people are welcome to raise their queries there, but certainly to accept the outcome of such courts when the ruling is made. I think that would be an important gesture that signals the maturity of all political parties. And as far as the electorate is concerned, I think all of us as South Africans would love to live in a country where we see our leaders acting in mature ways, in ways that respect the Constitution, and that guarantees us that we are in safe hands, whoever takes the levers of government. I think that's all we want to see, people who respect the laws of the country and our Constitution.
Yeah. Then looking at the observation that you have made during these elections in the various provinces, that you're looking at what was happening at the polling stations. Yesterday, the final voter turnout came out to 58.61% or 61%, which is the lowest since the dawn of our democracy. There was an expectation that the number could actually increase from the 2019 66% voter turnout. What would you say could be behind this low voter turnout, also taking into consideration the issue that you lament around the training of IEC staff members when it comes to the implementation of Section 24A?
In my view, Aldrin, I think the fact that the political parties I take the view that particularly the dominant party, the ANC, has, because of the Zondo Commission report for one thing, and expressions or incidents of corruption in other parties as well, notably the DA, I think, has been accused also in the Western Cape of being self-serving in some other ways. So in that sense, there is a disillusioning effect, and the South Africans tend to take the view that it doesn't help whichever party you vote for. And that is something that we will have to work hard to redeem as a society, so that we restore the confidence in public leaders, elected officials, going forward. I think that's the one major blow to our national psyche, that people simply do not trust politicians anymore. They don't have a memory of how that would be possible. They don't have a sense that people they have trusted with their vote before have not betrayed them. So I think we need to figure out how that can be changed going forward.
Yeah. Then the issue around Section 24A, the amendment to the Electoral Act and the implementation thereof, because I've spoken to a couple of people, Reverend, who did say that they actually did go out to go and vote. But when they arrived there, they were told that they are not on the voters' roll. And that is because they didn't know about a Section 24A, or perhaps maybe the poor explanation that had come from some of the staff members of the IEC.
Correct. I think that is regrettable. I think the IEC could have done better with regard to alerting voters to do that. For my part, I do remember getting an SMS saying, must confirm my voter station. And I had recently moved house, so I was alert to the fact that I might have to look at that before the day of voting comes. But for the great majority of South Africans who may not have the sort of access electronically that I have, I can very well see how that is possible, that they would turn up on the voting day and be told that the law says such and so. So I think that the IEC could have done better there. And having said that, I think also political parties would share the blame for all the responsibility, put it that way, to communicate to their voters about the details of the law. And one understands with the fact that there were changes in the electoral law with independents coming in. So there were changes that needed to have been thoroughly communicated to the electorate ahead of the elections. But sadly, we lament the fact that this was not so, and people had to lose their right to vote as a result of these administrative issues.
Yeah. And finally, Rev, you did touch on this a little bit earlier on, but I want to go back to this point, and that is some political parties not happy with how the elections were run, and also allegations of vote rigging, and some saying that they will be going to the courts. How does an election observer pronounce on the free and fairness of an election when you have so many political parties that are saying that there have been vote rigging, and therefore the elections cannot be free and fair?
Well, I suppose it comes down in the end to statistical meaning of the allegations. There may very well be incidents of malpractice, but the question that one has to deal with in the end is whether these were material. And so to the degree that many people who were polled by different observer organizations, independents, as well as organizations like the Human Science Research Council that polled up to, felt that 92% of electorate felt that the elections, the experience of the voting booths was a pleasant one, and that there was no reason to be concerned. So all of that doesn't say that there was never that applies across the board, that 100% of the cases there was nothing amiss. So I think the question is whether that is statistically significant, and the conclusion of independent observers in civil society is that on the whole, broadly, we can say that these were free and fair.
Rev, thank you so much for your time. And of course, the MK party has called for a re-election or re-vote, and not necessarily a recount of the vote. We will be in conversation with Ntlha, who is the spokesperson for the MK party. That was the chairperson of Defend Our Democracy, Reverend there, speaking to us about their observation of these elections.